Chapter 5, Bootcamp. Resistance is futile. Lake Harmony has your parents' consent to administer whatever punishment is deemed necessary. Welcome to TI, Temporary Isolation, where I am forced to lie face down on the cold concrete floor for 24 hours a day, except for a few minutes here and there to eat or use the bathroom. After a day, your chin becomes sore, your neck muscles cramp, and your knees and ribs grow raw from pressing against the hard floor. After 2 days, parts of your body that shouldn't hurt, your elbows and hips, your lower back, begin to ache. The concrete has a sour, musty smell. You realize that dozens, no, probably hundreds of other kids have lain in this very same spot. Is it their sweat you smell, or are you imagining it? Is this the same spot where they place their faces? Thoughts like this fill me with revulsion, so I can't escape the sense that I'm lying on the germs, the sweat, the smells of hundreds who've lain here before. And that's only a small part of the torture. What's far worse is the mental torture. First, there's the monotony. Day after day, hour after hour, alone with your thoughts. Perhaps if you were sent to Lake Harmony because you dealt drugs or robbed somebody or stole a car, they would expect you to reflect on the error of your ways and see the mistakes you've made. But what if you hadn't done anything seriously wrong? What then? Only it's not really about what I think is right or wrong, is it? My parents sent me here because it's about what they think. And that's a different story. School may have come easily to me. Learning to live in my parents' world was much harder. There, it seemed that I was always making mistakes. School was black and white. You either knew the answer or you didn't. You were either right or wrong. In my parents' world, black was sometimes white, but sometimes it was another color altogether. On the floor in TI, these painful memories stand out like thorns on the stem of a rose. Like the time I was 8 and we were having dinner at my father's club, I was wearing my club uniform. Blue blazer, white shirt, gray slacks. The only opportunity for self-expression came with my choice of ties. That night, I had chosen a green bow tie. "You know I don't like that bow tie," said my mother, who was wearing a red dress and white pearls. "Oh, come on," said my father. "He's just experimenting." The Framsons, a family we knew, entered the dining room. Most of the women in my mother's circle were so thin you might think they were emaciated. But Mrs. Framson was the exception. Plump, though certainly not fat. My mother leaned toward my father and me. Her streaked blonde hair brushed across the rim of her wineglass. "Look at Hallie Framson. She just had thousands of dollars worth of plastic surgery. I don't think it did a bit of good." Then she waved and smiled at the Framsons, who came towards our table. As was the custom at the clubs we belonged to, my parents and I rose to greet them. Males shook hands with males, females kissed females, and males on both cheeks. "Hallie, you look wonderful," my mother gushed. The Framsons stayed and chatted for a moment, then moved on. My parents and I sat down again. "Why did you tell her she looked wonderful?" I asked. "A second ago, you said all that plastic surgery didn't do a bit of good." My mother's cheeks turned bright red as she stared past me. I turned and saw Hallie Framson standing only a few feet away. She'd stopped to say hello to someone at the table behind us. Obviously, she'd heard what I'd said. Now her hands rose to her face, and she rushed toward the ladies' room. "You little brat," my mother snapped, then jumped up and hurried to the ladies' room to make amends. "You little brat." The word stung worse than the hardest slap, mainly because I didn't understand what I'd done wrong. But that was only the beginning. When I was 9 years old and in 3rd grade at the prestigious Governor's School, we were assigned to write about our parents' jobs. This is what I wrote. My father is a lawyer who works on mergers and acquisitions. He helps companies buy other companies. Suppose Bob's Ice Cream Company wants to raise the price of its ice cream to $5 a quart. The problem is, Max's Ice Cream Company sells its ice cream for $4 a quart. Bob's is worried that if it raises the price, its customers will switch to Max's. So Bob hires my father to help them buy Max's company. Once Bob owns Max's, it can charge whatever it wants for ice cream. My mother runs a crisis management firm. She helps companies and people who are in trouble. Suppose Tom's construction company builds a building that falls down and kills a bunch of people. The relatives of the people who died tell the newspapers they think the building fell down because Tom didn't build it right. But Tom thinks the building fell down because Mary's brick company sold them bad bricks. So Tom hires my mom's company to make sure the newspapers know that it was Mary's fault, not his. Or suppose a famous actress gets caught shoplifting. She's worried the bad publicity will ruin her career. So she hires my mom's company to explain that she accidentally took the wrong medicine and didn't know what she was doing. I got an A. Back then, I always got A's. But even the A's weren't enough. At home, my father thought the essay was funny, but my mom got mad because she said it made what she did sound too simple. And besides, she said, I shouldn't have written about her first. I should have written about her first and Dad second, because she owned her own company, while Dad worked for someone else. To fight the monotony and boredom of TI, I began to relive memories. The day I walked into math class and saw Sabrina for the first time, in a red short-sleeved dress, writing an equation on the board. The first time we met out of school, the first kiss, the first time we made love, then every time after that. When I ran out of those memories, I recall family vacations, Caribbean beaches, snow-covered mountains in British Columbia, Italian museums, day by day, and then hour by hour. I play songs in my head, the entire CDs, track by track, then movies, especially my favorites, scene by scene. All this helps, but not enough. Sooner or later, an ache, or a sudden hunger pain, or a full bladder brings me back, and once again I am lying on the cold, hard floor, aware of every second grinding slowly past. Tell us what you learned in TI, Garrett, Joe orders. A week or so later, a dozen of us are seated in a circle of orange plastic chairs in a small room. In fact, this session is called Circle. A brown curtain is drawn over the only window, and the walls are bare, as if to make sure we have nothing to look at except each other. Half the kids are males from my family. The other half are females from the Truth family. As far as I know, this is the only time males and females are allowed to mix at Lake Harmony. The girl with black hair and clear blue eyes is in this group. She is still wearing that sign around her neck. I rise slowly to my feet. Various parts of my body still hurt, and my back is stiff. It was extremely unpleasant, sir. My voice sounds strange to me. This is the first time I've spoken in I don't know how many days. I don't care what you thought of it, Joe snaps. I asked what you learned from it. What did I learn from TI? That it takes about 4 days for a caffeine headache to finally go away. That a foot or a hand can go numb and tingly for no apparent reason other than lack of use. That when too many thoughts press in on you, one way to escape is to focus all your attention on each individual breath. I learned that it's really uncomfortable to lie face down on the floor for a week, sir. Around the room, kids snicker. Most of them are still faces without names. Joe's nose twitches, though his eyes aren't as puffy or as red as before. What else did you learn? He asks. I don't know, sir. You don't know? Joe repeats, taunting. I thought you were a smart guy, Garrett. How can you not know? I don't know what you want me to say, sir. Joe squints. He sets his jaw as if he's getting angry. I wonder if it's real anger or just an act. Boy, you must either be stupider than we thought or a damn masochist to give me an answer like that. Do you remember why you got sent to TI in the first place? Send him back, says a thin kid with short brown hair and a face covered with bumpy zits. He sits hunched over, a finger between his lips, gnawing on a fingernail. I expect Joe to yell at him for speaking out of turn, but my father just gazes at me, waiting for an answer. You said I had to learn to obey authority, sir. And did you? Yes, sir, I did. Liar, spits a chubby, red-cheeked girl with stringy brown hair. Send him back, repeats zit-faced boy. A stocky guy with short black hair, deep-set eyes, and thick black eyebrows that meet in the center of his forehead glowers at me. You're full of crap. Thus, I discover that in Circle, we are allowed to speak out as long as what we say shows support for the group leader. Meanwhile, the girl with the black hair widens her eyes and gives me an alarmed look, as if trying to warn me that I'm headed for trouble. So there was a time when you didn't obey authority, asks Joe. I guess that depends on your definition of authority, sir. I define authority as Parents. Joe spells the word out. In your case, parents who expected you to come home at night, go to school during the day, not take drugs, not steal money, and listen to what they said. Sir, with all due respect, I went to school enough to make the honor roll. I only smoked once in a while, and the money I took wasn't even pocket change to them. That's not what your parents said, Joe replies. Can parents ever be wrong, sir? I asked. Or, sir, more precisely, if our parents weren't paying for us to be here, then could they ever be wrong? The kids in the circle go quiet. The question has struck something inside each of them, as if they've all wondered or wanted to ask the same thing at one time or another. Joe instantly shoots them a warning look. Sitting next to me, the red-headed kid with the freckles and the lizard teeth snorts loudly with ridicule. That's fat. Yeah, right, chimes chubby girl, her eyes darting toward Joe for approval. A noisy chorus of antagonism follows as kids eagerly jump at the opportunity to show Joe that they know better, that they've learned the lesson I'm still struggling with. Of course our parents are right, you jerk. Come on, idiot. When are you going to take responsibility? You can't go through life blaming everyone else when you're the one at fault. As each of them recites another patented Lake Harmony slogan, their personal Pledge of Allegiance, they look to their all-knowing father for brownie points. Just a perfect little angel, adds glowering unibrow boy. Never a problem with no one. Doesn't even know why he's here. It must be some kind of mistake. Like the red-headed kid, he radiates an aura of danger. Sit down, Garrett, Joe barks. Suppose I told you that as soon as we're finished with Circle, you're going back to TI. Think that would change your mind? How, sir? I asked. Joe stares at me in disbelief, and now I'm pretty sure it's no act. You really don't get it, do you? He's stupid, said the red-haired one with the lizard teeth. Nah, he thinks he's too smart, countered Zitface. Just because you memorized the Bible doesn't mean you learned it. You haven't learned squat, growls Unibrow. Yeah, agrees Chubby Girl. Send him back to TI. As if once wasn't enough, the kids in Circle unleash a second barrage of ridicule. It is, after all, I suspect, designed to curry favor with Joe and earn the points required to move up to the next level and the tiny freedoms that come with it. The wave of abusive shouts and insults all blends together into white noise. But under it, I hear someone speaking in my ear. It's the red-haired kid, leaning close. I'm gonna mess you up, big guy, he says in a low voice. Got it? TI is nothing compared to what I'm gonna do to you. What is this? I wondered, turning to face him. He glares back menacingly, his little yellow lizard teeth bared. Why is he threatening me? Under the freckles, his skin looked pasty, as if the blood doesn't circulate properly. Maybe there's not enough of it going to his brain. Meanwhile, Joe allows the verbal abuse to flow for a while, then yells at the others to shut up. Like well-trained dogs, they instantly obey. Let's talk about Sabrina, Joe says. At the unexpected sound of her name, I feel myself flinch. Sabrina. Her deep brown eyes and soft brown hair, the exotic scent of her almond skin. Where is she at this very moment? What is she doing? By now she must know I've been sent away. Is she sitting at the computer under the Hockney Pool poster I gave her, waiting for my IM to appear? Does she check the mailbox each day for a letter I'm not allowed to write? The ache I feel for her is greater than any physical pain. Lying on the floor in TI, I replayed conversations we'd had, recalled her smell, her touch, the way her hair fell into her face, the way she giggled and groaned, and would sometimes wrap her arms around my chest and squeeze as if knowing that someday some invisible force would pull us apart. Garrett! Joe harshly pulls me out of these memories. You want to go back to TI right now, or do you want to talk? Why is he doing this? Doesn't anybody else get a chance to be skewered? Across from me, the girl with the black hair raises her blue eyes curiously. Sabrina, Joe prompts me. She's a woman I know, sir. A woman? Chubby girl repeats scornfully as if she assumes I'm being pretentious. She must not have heard what Joe said in the food hall before they sent me to TI. Not far from her, a pale and delicate boy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and pouty lips leans forward as if trying to hear better. That's all you have to say? Joe asks. Nothing about her being 8 years older than you? Or that she was your teacher? Or that you repeatedly disobeyed your parents who forbade you to see her? This time, there were no jeers. The kids gaze at the walls and the floor with uncertain expressions, as if they're not certain what to think. The pale blonde boy stares at me with a look of wonder and curiosity. Gee, it sounds like maybe you do have a problem with authority, Joe says. I believe that's different, sir. His nose twitches. Different? How? I love her, sir. The room remains silent for what feels like a long time. Until next to me, the red-haired kid smirks. Oh, how cute. Shut up, Adam. The girl with the black hair jumps down his throat. If your parents forbid you to do something and you repeatedly disobey them, Joe says, how is that different? They don't understand, sir, I answered. I tried to explain to them 100 times. No, Joe disagrees sharply. You're the one who doesn't understand. You're a child. They are your parents. You don't know what's best for you. They do. You are to obey them unconditionally. That is precisely why you are here, Garrett, and you will stay here until you learn that. Do you understand? I lower my head and stare at my bare toes in my flip-flops. What I understand is that I've always related better to adults than kids my own age. It's not exactly something I'm proud of. Believe me, it would have been a lot easier the other way around. But from the time I was young, I was like an older person trapped in a kid's body. While other kids were reading Goosebumps, I was reading Stephen King. When they were listening to hip-hop, I was into jazz. While they were watching teenage horror movies, I was watching the films of Martin Scorsese and Paul Haggis. Then I met Sabrina, and there was an instant connection. I'd never felt anything like it. At first, the 8-year difference in age felt strange. I admit it bothered her a lot more than me. But she looked younger than her age, while I, more than 6 feet tall and shaving every day, seemed older. Strangers never questioned seeing us together. We looked like a couple in our late teens. But it wasn't just outward appearances. I felt we were meant to be together. We were both math geeks and Magna heads. Every time Sabrina started to fret that being with me was wrong, that people her age weren't supposed to have intimate relations with people my age, I pointed out that there used to be laws against relations between people of different races or of the same sex. We now think of those laws as barbaric or uninformed. People develop at different speeds. I told her over and over that sometimes the normal rules don't apply. She tried suggesting that we wait until I turned 18, but to me, that sounded like an eternity. Garrett, I asked you if you understood, Joe repeats. I understand that I'm a prisoner in a place where my parents are paying a lot of money to get other people to do what they'd been unable to do, which has convinced me that something that feels completely right is wrong. Well, Joe says, yes, sir, I understand. What do you understand? I understand that I will stay here until I learn, sir. Learn what? That I must obey my parents unconditionally, sir. Once again, the room grows quiet until Chubby Girl says, Don't believe him. He's full of it. And for once, she's right.